You wouldn't drive across the country using just a paper map. But that's how most enterprises approach their IT transformation. No visibility for the road ahead. Legacy systems forcing detours. Manual processes compounding delays. Innovations stalling in gridlock. $2.41 trillion in US technical debt. 70% of workloads still on premises. 70% of legacy IT software for Fortune 500 companies written over 20 years ago. Until you've spent more on friction than the finish line ultimately returns. What if you could see the entire route before you start? AWS Transform reimagines your entire transformation journey with AI-powered navigation for modernizing legacy systems. What was once impossible, now inevitable. Fortune 500 and global enterprises operating at the speed of innovation. Discover the science, the proof. Your transformation journey starts here.
Please welcome to the stage Vice President of AWS Transform at AWS, Dr. Asa Kalavade.
Who remembers carrying paper maps and printing directions to plan travel? Today, we don't think twice about using your GPS-enabled phone that gives you turn-by-turn real-time directions, reroutes you if needed, and even gives you an alert depending on where you need to be and when. And that's our journey for migration and modernization. I'm Asa Kalavade. For the last 10 years, I have obsessed about helping our AWS customers migrate and modernize in the cloud. I started building hybrid storage services that connected customers' on-prem environments to the cloud, helping them start their migrations. I have built data transfer services that allow customers to modernize their data workflows, whether it's gene sequencing, media editing, supply chain, and so much more. And today, I lead AWS Transform. Much like the GPS has evolved, our tools for migration and modernization are evolving. We started with custom scripts, point-in-time tools, a lot of swivel chairing, sending information back and forth. But our vision is for these tools to become just like the GPS, automatically navigate you based on your destination. We envision a world where there are task agents that are experts that are part of your IT team, that sit alongside your global systems integrators and partners. They understand your business. They plan the migration based on your inputs and your business objective. They execute using your cues. They're continuously learning. They're learning from their own trajectories. They're learning from your input. And they're learning from the environment and the enterprise context itself. And it is with this vision that we launched AWS Transform in May of this year. AWS Transform is the first agentic AI service for migration and modernization. We launched with 3 critical workloads, and these were determined based on what our customers told us were the most important yet most risky workloads to modernize. First, we started with migrations. Customers want to move to the cloud, save costs, take advantage of the elasticity. But these migrations are hard. You need to understand on-prem tech and cloud tech. So we started with modernizing and migrating VMware workloads. Second, mainframe. As we all know, mainframes have been around for the last 50 years. They run highly business complex applications. But customers have an urgency to move these to the cloud. First, they want to get ready for AI, but also the expertise in mainframes is declining. So we started with enabling modernization of IBM z/OS workloads. Third, Windows. Customers want to modernize their Windows applications to get better security and performance, but these are monoliths. And modernizing them requires understanding these complex dependencies. So we started with modernizing .NET from framework to core, so you can go to more open platforms. Now, it's not just the systems that we are migrating that are complex. Migrations and modernizations are complex because of the number of people involved. It includes stakeholders across organizations, multiple experts. It includes lots of documents being passed around, lots of calls. And it is this complexity that we want to simplify. And here's how we do it in Transform. So we will Transform as a special purpose-built web application. Within Transform, you can be running multiple jobs at any given time across multiple workloads. Within each job, there could be multiple tasks. We make collaboration really easy by allowing multiple users to work within the system, adhering to your authentication policies. We have a single artifact store, so you can bring all your documents as part of the migration process in one place. And these documents then get archived and versioned, so they become a digital footprint of your IT infrastructure as it goes through the transformation process. In addition, we have multiple task agents that can create a job plan, that execute the job plan with the human in the loop, providing the input as needed, all through chat. Now, to make this really simple experience possible, we focused on 3 fundamentals. First, we have dozens of expert task agents. These expert agents go from anywhere from understanding your COBOL code, your .NET code, your VMware TCO, and the works. These agents have been trained based on our learnings of hundreds of thousands of migrations over the years. They also can understand the business context and your enterprise context. Second, these agents get orchestrated based on goals. So based on your specific goal for your specific workload, a job plan is created that could be very personalized. These agents are then orchestrated through this job plan. Not only does this give you end-to-end automation, but it allows each migration to be highly personalized. Third, these agents are learning. They're learning from trajectories of their own runs. They learn across runs. And because of this learning, we can now recommend the next best steps. Let's look one level deeper under the hood. Here's the AWS Transform stack. At the topmost layer, you can interact with multiple surfaces. We showed the web interface earlier. You can also use an IDE. And under this are the 3 domain-specific purpose-built workflows, VMware, Mainframe, and .NET. Now, within each of these, obviously, there are lots of task agents that get invoked. But all of them share a common set of fundamentals. And these include your artifact store, your knowledge bases, the chat agents, and most importantly, the job orchestrator. It's the job orchestrator that understands dependencies, routes tasks, and also captures a lot of the work logs. Because at the end of the day, as you can see, Transform is multi-agent, multitask, multi-user, collaborative. So that's very complex to operate. So we capture all of the work logs and the operational pieces that allow us to run Transform. Transform also fits within your enterprise context. So it can connect to your code repos. It can connect with coding agents, your identity providers. So it's really meant to be an extension of an enterprise's IT environment. Since launch, hundreds of customers have used Transform. They have processed over 1 billion lines of COBOL code as they're modernizing mainframes. And we estimate to have saved over 800,000 hours of manual effort. And we're just getting started. Now let's look at each of these 3 workloads in some more detail. Let's say you have a large data center exit coming up. The first agent you would turn to would be the VMware agent. Now, as many of you know, these VMware migrations tend to be very complex. Typically, you have an IT admin who's collecting all your on-prem assets to even know what you have on-prem before you can move it to the cloud. And then you have a combination of your tech program managers, your product managers, and even CFOs coming up with a business case, planning the migration, and then your experts, whether networking, security, migration, all of them have to come in and do the actual migration. Now, you can imagine this is what makes those projects so complex, and they take anywhere from months to years to complete. So how does this work in Transform? We have introduced 5 new task agents within Transform to make this process much simpler. So first, we've expanded the discovery. Now you can upload all kinds of formats into Transform, and it takes care of all the deduplication and creates a canonical representation of your entire assets. The next step is the actual TCO, or business case analysis. So we've introduced more ways in which we come up with recommendations for the right target architecture, have a real-time connection to the AWS price catalog so you can understand the costs, and now you can have a conversation with this. You can say, what if I moved from this instance to the other instance? Or I changed regions. So you can do all of this in minutes. This is what used to previously take weeks or months, and that makes it hard to even start a migration. So let's say we've done all of this and we're ready to move forward. The next step is planning your migration waves. At GA, we introduced the capability to do this through Transform, but then our customers told us, hey, we want to do more of these migration planning. So we have now introduced a new ability to do natural language-based migration planning. So not only is this looking at your dependencies and data flows, but now you can give it instructions such as migrate my test and prod servers in different waves, or do my HR application first and then the tax application, or even say put all the servers with low latency requirements into one wave. So now it's looking at the dependencies and making these plans. Again, in a very conversational experience. Now, with the planning, you set these agents to work. You have your network and security agents going and do the work. Now, one of the features that we introduced in Transform back in May was automated network generation. So when you're moving from on-prem to the cloud, you need to generate the network topologies. And this saves a lot of time and effort. And now customers love this, but they told us, hey, we have many more complex environments. Can you help us with that as well? So now we've expanded the ability to do isolated VPCs, hub and spoke networks, many different IP strategies, mapping into multiple accounts. So this has really sped up the whole network generation process, along with security groups. We also brought in App Migration Service, or MGN, as many of you might remember, into Transform. So now you can do your rehost all within the same application. And another feature we just introduced was the ability to create a support ticket. So let's say you finished your migration process and you have the Countdown Premium package. You want your TAMs and support engineers to help you with cutover. All you do now is click a button, open a support ticket. Your entire context is passed over, and the support engineer now becomes part of this extended collaboration team. So let's pull it together with a specific customer example. We've been working with CSL, a global biotech company, for the last few months. Over the years, they have accumulated a number of data centers because of acquisitions. And they had over 5,000 servers, 1,000+ applications, and they had decided to make a move to the cloud because they wanted better scale and capacity. Now, they started doing the migration, and it took them a couple hours to understand each application. Remember, there's thousands of them. And within a month, they had still only processed about a couple hundred servers to plan their migration. So we then worked with them, along with AWS ProServe and Transform, and they got a 10x improvement in the time it took to discover applications, a 12x improvement in migration planning, and now they're well on their way to migrate 17 data centers in just 2 years. And they estimate to see a 30% savings in total cost. All right, so now we've migrated those VMs, but we are not quite yet ready to exit the data center because we have that one big mainframe still waiting. So let's see how you can use Transform within the same experience to modernize your mainframe. Now, if you look at a typical mainframe modernization process, here's what usually happens. There's dozens of engineers sitting and trying to understand that COBOL code, because remember, many of the original authors are not with the company anymore. You're trying to understand the code, the dependencies, the databases, and all of that. And once you've done that, only then can you start understanding which pieces you want to start modernizing. And this is the piece that makes these mainframe projects go on for 3 to 5 years. Now, with Transform, we are actually reimagining how to do reimagined projects. So with this, you upload all your data, you get all the analysis, but more importantly, you can bring in your business context, code documentation, any other tutorials that you might want to bring in, and along with that, any of the context from the systems integrators. So with all of this that flows through the system, you can plan your migration, connect it with coding agents, and you're ready to go. So to make this happen, we introduced 6 new agents in the Mainframe application. So the first step, of course, is to upload all your data, and you see the analysis. So this one shows a lot of the information. But there's also too much information. So we've now introduced a natural language-based analysis on the analyzed code. So with few questions, you can ask questions like, what are my batch processes? What are my transactional processes? Tell me more about what's in each of these applications. Next, we've introduced a new activity analysis agent. So you can then start understanding the activity of these different components of your mainframe application. For example, if you decided to do batch processes, you can ask, what are the most complex batch processes? What take the longest time? What is running most frequently? And what's not being used at all, which is obviously a natural candidate to not modernize. So again, you can do all of this with natural language because we bring in all the analysis through knowledge bases that are easily accessible through chat. Data analysis, that's another agent that we've introduced. So now you can go and ask questions about the data lineage, your DB2 tables, vSAM files, and everything that interacts between the application and data structures. So as you can see, we're building up more and more information about this application, including documentation and business logic, all in one place. And now you're ready to migrate and modernize that application. But there's one more. We've introduced test agents. So as you all know, that testing is about half the time it takes for any project. So we started building agents to understand your system, create test plans, create test data sets, and compare the two. And we are excited about what we've done. But to tell you more about this, I'd like to introduce a customer, and a customer that doesn't need much introduction. So let's see this video.
For over a century, BMW has engineered the ultimate driving machine, creating the world-renowned feeling of sheer driving pleasure. With the BMW iX3, the company reimagined that experience for a new era. More intelligent, more dynamic, and more BMW than ever before. Behind every vehicle stands the BMW's global production network, the BMW iFactory. This manufacturing concept embodies efficiency, sustainability, and digitalization, paving the way for future-proof vehicle production. Building on a modern and powerful IT landscape, BMW continues to shape the future of mobility, translating its pioneering spirit into the digital realm. By harnessing the power of AI, automation, and cloud technologies, BMW is transforming its mainframe into a modern, scalable digital ecosystem, setting new standards for performance, efficiency, and innovation in the automotive industry, redefining the art of the possible together with AWS.
Please welcome to the stage Director of Customer Solutions and Migrations at AWS, Sriratna Singha, and Vice President of Transformation Programs at BMW Group, Frank Uslub.
Frank, welcome.
Nice to be here, thank you.
So, BMW and AWS have been co-innovating on this journey to a modern IT landscape for some time. So Frank, love to hear a bit about your role, your mission, and this journey that you've been on.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So digitalization is one of our focus topics and of course a key enabler to produce such great and innovative cars. So we have been working together with AWS since more than 10 years on innovative topics like the Alexa Assistant or our BMW Cloud Data Hub. We are now in the middle of a group-wide cloud transformation, which is the primary mission of my organization. And for us, it's not just an IT upgrade, but it's really a strategic decision to accelerate innovation, to increase flexibility, and to unlock the full potential of data and AI.
That's a fascinating vision, to unlock that full potential of data and AI across the company. Now, BMW has a storied history, over 100 years old. How does that impact your IT landscape?
We are quite proud of a very modern IT landscape, supporting core processes like engineering, production, and customer experience with AI. So we have more than 600 productive AI use cases running in our business. But like any other big company, we also have some legacy. And we also have some legacy systems. So typically, these kind of systems have been in use for a longer time. And typically, there was no significant need for change. So obviously, you cannot migrate them easily to the cloud. So far, we kept them on-premise.
That's an interesting challenge. Like, you've got this mix of the core processes infused with AI, 600 use cases. That's amazing. And you've got your legacy systems. So what changed, Frank, that made transforming the migration one of your strategic focus topics?
Yeah, when we started to explore agentic AI use cases in our processes, we saw great opportunity for embedding more intelligence in some of these processes, especially in areas where we also have some legacy systems. And for us, there's a huge potential of automated end-to-end workflows and smarter decisions. But there's no chance of implementing that in a mainframe environment. So far, it was also quite one of the biggest challenges in IT to actually migrate away from a mainframe system. But here, AWS is a big game changer for us. So AI became for us both, on one hand, a driver, and on the other hand, also an enabler.
That's a fascinating shift to think about AI both becoming a driver for that need to modernize so you can build agentic workflows, and also enabling and accelerating that transformation. Now, what were the biggest challenges with getting off the mainframe, and how did you sequence your approach with us?
I would say it's the typical challenges that come with a monolithic architecture, and I know that most of the people in the audience know what that really means. You have a lot of interdependencies on the mainframe, which means it's really difficult to isolate single applications and also to migrate single applications without causing a ripple effect. So, and on the other hand, there's really a lack of proper documentation or even test cases. So some of these systems evolved over a long time with no or just a minimal or quite outdated documentation. So where we started with was, first of all, analyzing our applications and then defining our migration patterns. Some of the applications we could quite easily migrate, and we find easily patterns to replace it with existing template solutions. But for the remaining applications, we first started with analyzing further the dependencies and then started with decoupling the data. That gave us already a good indication where to start with and how to break things into smaller pieces with less dependencies.
And what's really interesting about that is this dependency mapping and analysis is often the most complex aspect of migrating off the mainframe, and you found this way to make it better. Now, this co-innovation partnership with Transform has been 6 months in the making. Can you share with our audience what are some of the specific capabilities you focused on with us?
Yeah, we saw, first of all, huge potential in understanding and visualizing these kind of dependencies and creating, again, a documentation based on the actual code, which was not there yet. Yeah. But of course, everything around testing, like Asa mentioned, is something where we have a huge potential. And it started from test case generation based on extracting business rules to test data creation or even automated testing. So that's what we focused on before we also looked at some of the code improvements. So as a next step, we are currently working with the Reforge capabilities to optimize our coding and even make it easier to maintain it in the future, also for software engineers who have not been in touch with any legacy application. And we see a big progress on that.
That's great, because what I hear as well from many customers is getting the code not only moved, but in line with their enterprise standards, Java standards, making it more readable is very critical for success. So that's great. So how did you implement these migrations with Transform within your organization and your team?
Yeah. So our ambition is to do these migrations with the same quality, precision, and efficiency as building cars. So what we did, we built something up what we called our migration factory, which is a team of experts with the right mindset and skills, supported and enabled by the AI capabilities of AWS Transform. And they do the migration together with the product teams. For us, that's a huge advantage, since we can take the load away from the product teams, and they can really concentrate on creating value for our business. But on the other hand, we have our factory team, which can learn with every migration and can provide valuable feedback for further improvements of AWS Transform. So while we still need an engineer in the loop at the moment for these transformations, we clearly see that the manual effort is going down, and that's really amazing to see that.
That's amazing indeed to think about. Now, let's talk about results from the transformation. What are some of the outcomes that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's definitely all about speed and all about effort reduction. So what took us 10 days in the past, like test case creation for even smaller application, can now be done within a couple of hours, even including validation. We started with the ramp up of our factory just a couple of months ago with some smaller applications, and we now have the confidence after we implemented them that we can work on the bigger ones. So that's a big progress for us.
That is a very significant progress. So if we reflect on what you said, that's 10 days for test case creation to hours. That's over a 75% time and efficiency savings. So Frank, what else is different now with Transform?
So I mentioned that we are much faster, but what has changed as well that we also have reduced the risks. So if you look at the opportunities from automated test case generation, that also leads to another improvement. It leads to a much more increased test coverage. So in one of our cases, even by 60%. In the past, when test cases have been created manually, some of the special variants have been missed, later causing issues in production. That cannot happen with an automated creation based on business rules extractions, based on the actual source code. And that we are able to do it and that we are able to get that test coverage also helps us to create much more trust on the business side in order that they believe that we can master these transformations.
And that's the great risk reduction and coverage. What else does this mean, Frank, for BMW and your teams in practical terms?
Yeah, while ramping up our factory, we have been able already to migrate 7 applications. And we have been able to do that without adding additional resources into our product teams, so they can really fully concentrate on creating business value.
So 7 applications in just 6 months. That's pretty unheard of in the mainframe world. And it sounds like you're also seeing that the application owners can really now go and focus on the business topics and not have to worry about spending cycles on the mainframe. That's great. Now, how do you bring teams and developers on the ground with you along this journey?
Well, being part of a team that solves one of the biggest challenges in IT, and I really think the mainframe migration is one of these big challenges, is something which actually motivates our team members a lot. And using AWS Transform to find smarter and much more automated ways for mainframe migration is a huge benefit. So the teams can, in our approach, bring in their ideas and explore opportunities in a very much experimentation culture which helps us also to get the best results, and that creates as well a great spirit.
A culture of true innovation. So what's next in terms of scaling this migration factory company-wide?
Yeah, we currently extending our factory, which is supported by our DevOps hub in South Africa, with some more colleagues from our DevOps hub in India, and we call it like compared to manufacturing approach, setting up a second assembly line. So what does it mean? It will help us to parallelize much more than we could do in the past, and also to work on some very specific technical challenges, and to further innovate to use the full potential of AI. Our ambition is to shorten our transformation timeline by at least 12 months, and I'm pretty sure we're going to make it.
This is manufacturing precision meeting AI transformation, and it's a repeatable model enabled by AWS Transform across industries. Frank, thank you for sharing this incredible journey with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shri. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
I remember meeting you a few months ago, and you had this grand vision that you shared with me. I am so impressed with how far along you've already come. And thank you for your partnership.
Thank you very much for the collaboration.
Thank you. All right, so let's continue our migration process. We moved those VMs, we modernized the mainframe applications, and now we're in the cloud. We have a lot of Windows applications. So customers told us that they really liked the Windows .NET modernization capabilities that we had. They could get about 80% savings in effort in modernizing those Windows applications. But then they told us, we want more. Any Windows application has databases, UI, a lot of interdependencies. And so today, I am very excited to introduce to you the latest expansion to AWS Transform, full stack Windows modernization. Within AWS Transform, now you can modernize not only your application code, but the SQL Server code, move it to Aurora Postgres. You can also modernize your UI from web forms to Blazor. You can deploy the code, and you can test it, all within one framework. So we are very excited about this. Now, why is this so important? If you look at a Windows modernization project, again, like you've seen before, lots of different stakeholders involved. You have DBAs, software developers, IT admins, DevOps. Now, all of them work within Transform. We can very easily do a full assessment of not just the application, but the database, the intricacies between those. We then do a transformation of the schema, and we do this using our years of experience with a DMS, Data Migration Service, and having done tens of thousands of these migrations over the years, we've brought all of that knowledge into this agentic infrastructure, and so you can modernize the schema, you can modernize the stored procs, and you can do the application modernization at the same time. So all the call invocations and the UI, all of these get modernized. And then within the same framework, you can deploy the app to EC2 or ECS. The database can be modernized and migrated to Aurora Postgres. We also generate test cases, so you can validate that what you have transformed is what your source was. And this is all done within Transform. So to show you a few quick examples from the UI, here on the screen, you can see in one place you're doing data and code analysis. You can also develop your migration waves based on the analysis, the complexity, and the interdependencies. And then you're doing your transformation, both schema, stored proc, code transformation, again, in one area. And this is where, after you finish the transformation, you can deploy it to the cloud. Now, what this gives you is the ability to do lots of repos in parallel, because you're applying them across the organization. But we've also heard that sometimes developers want to do a project at a time. So we have also made significant enhancements to the IDE experience. Now, within the IDE, you can get a full plan of your transformation process. You can edit the plan. You can change it based on your requirements. After the transformation is complete, if there is a need to involve the human in the loop to complete the transformation, we create a full markdown file that you can now take into your IDE back again and finish the transformation. And we make it very easy to go back and forth between the web app and the IDE. So here on the screen, you can see the work log. So your application might be happening in the IDE, but you can still see the work log in the web application. Or if you're a COE, or Center of Excellence owner, you can log in there and see the status of all your modernization projects. So we've been working with Bobby Land at Teamfront for the last several months. So Bobby leads the technology and the business operations for Teamfront, which has a number of holding companies that do field service applications. These companies have come together through a number of acquisitions and have multiple coding patterns. They've been deployed in different places. They have old application code. They sometimes don't even know who wrote the code because they've been changed over the number of years. And so Bobby started working with us on Transform, first started doing the .NET modernization. And he thought what would take 6 months was now being able to be completed in just 2 weeks. So having seen that, he's now working with us on modernizing some of his SQL servers to Aurora Postgres. So we're super excited to see how Bobby can now take all of this savings and move that towards innovating and create new SaaS applications. But now as we were talking with Bobby, he was saying, hey, it's great I do all these large modernization projects, but I also have a lot of other stuff that I need to take care of. The stuff meaning tech debt. So and lots of customers like that have told us this, that they have problems where they're maintaining the right versions of their code. You're trying to move from Java 8 to 11 to 17. You have all these API upgrades that you need to do, SDK upgrades. And this part of the tech modernization or tech debt management process usually takes 30% of a typical organization's time and resources. Now, organizations have choices. They could either keep managing this tech debt problem and reduce the investment they can do on modernization, or some of them say, hey, let me go to modernization, but then this tech debt keeps building up. Yes, it does build up, which is why we call it tech debt. But we said customers shouldn't have to make that choice. How do we help them with tech debt modernization? And so today, I am excited to tell you about the latest addition in Transform, AWS Transform Custom. With this, you can now create custom transformations and execute them at scale. And these transformations will take care of your software updates, API upgrades, and even modernizing your legacy applications. Now, this any-to-any code transformation is an audacious idea, and here's how we do it. Through a very easy experience, you define what you want your modernization to be. You describe your input and the output application. You can give code snippets. You can give some documentation. You can even point it to your internal wikis, because you might have been doing this manually. Through this, Transform then comes with an elegant description of your transform. You can edit it. You can now execute this either interactively through the IDE, through a CLI, or what's more interesting, you can even embed it into your existing applications to run at scale. As Transform keeps running, obviously, it's going to compare the validation that it put into the Transform to make sure that the transformed code is what you wanted it to be. And as it learns through these validations, through your input, its own self-debugging trajectories, it starts improving those transform definitions and creates knowledge items that might be specific to your org and your transformation. And through this, you can now get your end-to-end tech modernization built up. It's pretty exciting. What we did, though, we also wanted to see how it works for specific out-of-the-box transforms. So we have been using the custom transformation capability to define several transforms ourselves. So today, we're introducing 6 out-of-the-box transforms, ranging from Java, Python, Node.js upgrades, Lambda upgrades, SDK upgrades, and I'm sure the team is building more while I'm talking over here. But I always tell my kids, show, not tell. And so to show you how AWS Transform Custom works, I'm excited to introduce to you Morgan Lunt, who is one of the product managers on Transform. Morgan, come here and show us a demo.
Hey everyone, I'm really stoked to be here and to show you our brand new AWS Transform custom. And when I say brand new, I mean like 2 hours ago, I was sitting on my laptop like launching this thing. So this is fresh for y'all. Let's check out the demo video. So what you're seeing here is a terrain simulator that I vibe coded. It uses C++ and OpenGL. It still uses C++ and OpenGL. And I thought I'd give you guys something nicer to look at than just a command window, right? You'll notice I get like 50 FPS in it, like the CPU is kind of high, like it runs okay. But what I want to do is I want to see if I can use AWS Transform Custom to convert this from using OpenGL to Metal, which is Apple's first-party graphics API, bump up those FPS numbers, increase my performance a little bit, but keep the same look of my fun little tree scene that reminds me of Seattle that I've got here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the ATX CLI, and I'm going to tell the agent what it is I'm trying to do here. In this case, I want to migrate my application from using OpenGL to Metal. It's going to do a search of our internal registry to look for a transformation that's already built that does this. You'll see when it returns the list here that we've got several hundred transformations already. People have found all sorts of uses for custom transformations internally. This is internal to AWS. It didn't find one for OpenGL to Metal, so it's going to guide me through this really simple process to create a new one. This is where the agent is going to try to extract from me every bit of information that it feels like it needs to know what I'm really trying to get at with this transformation, what exactly it is I want to do. Runtime language preferences, library preferences, stuff like that. It uses this to generate an initial transformation definition, which is an encapsulation of the agent's understanding of what you want to do. I can give it feedback on that, or I can just tell it, just go run it. I can always tweak it later. So it's transforming my code now. And as you can see in the bottom left corner, it's making incremental Git commits, so I can always go back and check partial work for what the agent is doing if I don't like what it did at the end. And here we go. My code is now transformed. The first thing I'll look at is the validation summary that we have here. So the agent checks its own work, it critiques its own work, and it gives a summary of what it did, what it had difficulty with, what it thinks went well, the areas you may want to double check. Digging into the code that it changed here, you can see that it kept my application logic. It changed my OpenGL code from using OpenGL to Metal, which is a pretty substantial change. And it even went and rewrote all of my shaders into Metal. So what do you think? Do you think it worked? Hey, look at that. 120 FPS, some reduced CPU usage, buttery smooth. You know, it still is the beautiful Pacific Northwest scene that I wanted to bring to Las Vegas here. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I know what you're saying. Okay, Morgan, cool. I see how this can help like an individual developer, but I'm a program manager. I'm a campaign manager. I've got to do dozens, hundreds, thousands of code-based modernizations. How does this help me? Check this out. The AWS Transform web application has full knowledge of every transform in our CLI. So that's the ones that we made in AWS for you to use, and ones that individual developers in your corporation created. So a campaign manager comes here, they say, hey, I want to upgrade all of my Python lambdas. And ATX says, okay, cool. Here's a command. I've created a campaign, pass this command around to your individual developers, have them run it. It's going to transform their code, and it's going to log the progress here. Not only that, it writes the email for you. So it drafts it and everything, and you just say, hey, send it to the developers. Back here in the Cozy terminal, I'm an individual developer. I got that email, and I'm told, hey, Morgan, you got to go update all your Pythons. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I take this command, I put in the name of my repo, I put in the local file path on my disk where my repo is stored, and I hit go. And it's transforming. And as it's transforming, it's extracting knowledge items and learning about how my company's code looks and improving the quality of this transformation. But Morgan, I can hear you say, my developers have to do this one at a time, and this is going to take forever. What the heck? Fear not. We built this thing with a totally deterministic machine-drivable syntax. So you can literally just write a little script to pull your code down from wherever it's stored, transform it, and send it where it needs to go. And because it's a CLI, it's got really minimal dependencies. You can put it in a pipeline. You can put it in a container, put it in an AWS batch job, put it on a laptop in your basement. I don't particularly care. You can run it however your code modernization infrastructure is set up today. Back here in the AWS Transform web app, you can see the progress of your campaign. You can see every repo that's been transformed, its validation status. lines of code transformed, files transformed, and even an estimate of how much developer time you've saved. And because this is AWS Transform Web UI, you got the full agentic chat interface. So if you have any questions about the data, you can chat over the data and ask it questions. Thank you for your time. I'm super proud of what we've built here, and I cannot wait to see what you transform with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Now you know why I say show, not tell. Customers have been using Transform's custom capabilities for a range of use cases. So we have Air Canada, one of the largest airline providers in Canada. They use the out-of-the-box Lambda upgrades to help modernize thousands of Lambdas, and they're seeing 90% efficiency. Another example on the other extreme is Quad, a software provider for manufacturing companies. They're in the process of modernizing their ERP application, and they wanted to make sure their customers' custom work was easy to modernize along with the ERP application. They worked with us to define this highly precise, specific transformation, and they were able to get more than 7,000 hours of saving through this. And there's so many more examples in between. We ourselves in AWS have been using the custom capability for many use cases. We're migrating our Lambdas. We are doing bash script upgrades. We are even using this to move from x86 to Trainium. There's so many more ideas here. I'm sure your brains are thinking about everything you could be doing with this. So we are excited, and we are proud of where we've come with our developers and customers. And as we were talking with our partners, our consulting partners, they said they like Transform, but they challenged us to think bigger. They said, what would you do if there were no limits on where you could go? Where could you take Transform? What could you do with it? So today, I'm excited to tell you about Transform's composability capability. Now, with composability, what now you can do is take all of the Transform agents, but you can compose your own personalized workflows. And these could be based on your own agents, your IP, knowledge bases that have been collected over years of doing these projects. Or you can even bring in enterprise context. So now partners and consulting companies, AWS ProServe, they can create personalized versions of Transform for themselves. So to tell you a little bit more about what we mean by custom composability, let's see this video.
Migration partners have spent years building powerful tools and proprietary expertise that may live outside modern workflows. Now, AWS Transform introduces composable transformations, where AI amplifies partner expertise to build and scale differentiated solutions in 3 simple steps with synergistic effect. Compose, publish, use. We're building the world's largest transformation network. 140,000 partners in over 200 countries and territories, creating differentiated solutions and making their specialized expertise universally accessible to customers. This is the art of the possible, where trusted partner knowledge meets AWS native intelligence delivered at scale.
We have been thinking about composability for the last few months, and these thought leaders have helped us define it for you. Would you please introduce yourselves to the audience?
Hi, I'm Chris Wegman. I'm the CTO for the Accenture AWS Business Group.
Hi, I'm Ravi Kokar. I run the cloud business at financial services in Capgemini.
Hi, my name is Daryl Hammett. I'm a global director for AWS ProServe with AI platforms and also delivery.
Thank you, the 3 of you. So we've been working on composability ideas for the last few months. Tell us how you see composability fit in and what you've been able to do with it so far. Maybe start with you, Chris.
Yeah, we were very excited when you reached out and started talking about composable agents. We started working with a financial services company who is transforming their mainframe platform to a more modern architecture. And one of the big things we liked about the composable agents was the ability to, during the discovery process, to actually pull in business knowledge. We were able to take our business knowledge of how a loan process works, take their business knowledge, build that into an agent, so as discovery happened, we could compose that with another agent to make that discovery even more impactful for the developers.
That's awesome. Ravi, how about you?
Well, we have come a long way in a very short span of time, so thanks for the opportunity and early involvement. With the capability, and especially our ability to ingest external feature sets, like in financial services, we have deep grounding on how we understand deposits business. So for FDIC insured deposits that you keep in the bank, we were able to create something called a very cohesive forward and reverse engineering together with composability. So what it gives essentially is our ability to understand a legacy bank ecosystem and then seamlessly apply a lot of intelligence in it so that the deposits are then insured in a different set of banks overnight, and that creates a very different confidence for the bank and the consumers. So fascinating technology.
That's awesome. Daryl, how about you?
Yes, I'm so excited. You know, we've been doing a lot of work and leveraging on what Chris and also Ravi shared is that we used a lot of our knowledge bases. And as you all know, delivery is changing and transforming every day. And companies are looking for a seamless process. They're looking for something to solve the problems of time and materials. A lot of the time you shared aids are talking about exploring and figuring out the code and things of that nature. We used our years of experience and we leveraged Transform to actually build a delivery agent. And so this delivery agent is shaving a lot of time, 30, 40% of the time that we would have taken before with time and materials to actually be more efficient for customers. And it really plays a big part as we think about the future of fixed pricing and fixed pricing with milestones and fixed pricing with outcomes. That takes a lot of the time up front and really gives and streamlines the process so you can focus on modernization and really solving problems for your customers.
Thank you for all of that. Now, AI is changing how we are doing transformations. How do you see Transform, AI, and your businesses evolve over the next few years?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the ability to mix and match agents is something that's super exciting to me. No single transformation is the same. Every time we go to a different client or work with a different client or do internal modernization, the process is different every time. We have different types of code. Like you said, could be .NET, could be Mainframe. And the fact that we can bring those together, mix and match them to address the specific customer needs, that excites me. I don't have to go and rebuild it from scratch every time.
That's awesome. Ravi?
I agree with Chris. What's fascinating is with the technology, we are truly able to reimagine critical business processes. We do the best mainframe modernization when we actually don't talk about mainframe modernization. And the technology allows us to step back and look at a deposits process, look at a life insurance process, look at underwriting process, and really reimagine that and then get substantiated with composability, mix and match approach, and that creates superior customer experience and value.
I couldn't agree more with you, Ravi. One of the things that I think Gartner came out with a report earlier this year that 50% of POCs will not be funded this year because the organization CTOs or CEOs did not see adoption or see any productivity gains. One of the things, and building on Ravi's point, is that as you use these agents to really streamline the process, you can actually get a lot of return on your time and the time of value that you're spending with clients. Excuse me. So one of the things I think that agents are enabling us to do is get to the modernization story a lot faster and not taking so much time working through a lot of the discovery that you would typically have to do. So again, enabling us to move faster, be more efficient, leveraging agents, and not just one agent, multiple agents, as we actually work with partners. And Chris and I work together across many different opportunities, leveraging our partners and leveraging their agents and putting those agents together and our customers seeing a seamless process is really the future for our customers.
Well, thank you very much. We could keep going, but I really appreciate the partnership over the last few months. You challenged us to think bigger, but you've been thinking bigger with us. And this joint opportunity is going to take us places we've not even imagined so far. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. That was pretty exciting. So let's pull all of this together This is the evolved AWS Transform stack. So over the last hour or so, we showed you how we've expanded the purpose-built agents to add full-stack Windows modernization. We have made Transform extensible. You can do that through the custom agent, where you can define your own transforms. You can connect to a CLI. You can connect to coding agents. We've made it composable. So as you can see, you can personalize the experience. And as Chris was saying, for every specific customer, you can create a very personalized transformation experience. And through all of this, we see Transform as this extension of your IT workbench. It's the IT transformation workbench, whether you're a customer, a partner, or trying to do it yourself. And let's pull all of this together. Transform gives you a bunch of capabilities that help you modernize your entire system. So as we saw earlier, we can use the VMware agent, do the migration. You can then use the Windows agent in conjunction to then modernize that Windows application. There might be some custom off-the-shelf components there. You can use custom to define what that transformation should look like, and there you go. Or, we talked a lot about mainframe modernization, but there is such a long tail there that even if we build all the agents, there still might be niche things that we don't know how to transform. For example, we are now working with the airline industry to create transformations for TPF, which is very unique to specific verticals. So you can now mix and match these things. You can imagine using composability not only to create your own workflows, but create a lot of these custom agents through the AWS custom capability and bring them into this flow as well. So this becomes a place where you can mix and match, and our vision is really to help become this one place that fits into your enterprise ecosystem. And so just as our GPS is involved from paper maps to self-driving cars, we see Transform evolving. We've evolved to become smarter, more automated, and with this, we want you to put your tech debt modernization on autopilot so you can invest in innovation and the future. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the show.